Holy crap, what did I just watch? That was beyond terrible. That was truly horrific. I cannot believe how bad that was. We're on the second last episode of the show, and it just went batshit crazy, but it didn't go batshit crazy in a good way. It went batshit crazy in like a shitty way. It's like they realized, okay, we didn't accomplish anything in the first four episodes, so let's just have everything happen in this episode. Let's have as many main characters die as possible. Let's just have the whole plot get like immediately resolved. It doesn't even feel like it's the same story in this episode. It like the tone, the cinematography, everything just completely changed. And it's bizarre. It doesn't feel like anything from the previous episodes built up to this. Like nothing thematic from the previous episodes like paid off here. This is one of the single worst endings I've ever seen. I'm actually still in shock. I just finished watching it a couple minutes ago, and I can't believe like what the thought process was, like when they were making this episode, like how they thought this was a good idea. It's terrible. I'm trying to think of an ending that was this bad. I was going to say maybe this is a Gainax ending, but if it was a Gainax ending, there'd be like a mind screw, or there'd be something kind of cool. This isn't even like mindfuck bad. This is just bad. Okay, so now that I've said how bad it is, let's talk about why this episode's a piece of shit. So I'm just going to go through the episode plot-wise. There's going to be spoilers galore, and I'm going to explain why this episode was so bad. Okay, so to start off with, as we saw in the previous couple of episodes, Jon Snow stupidly told Sansa and Arya that he was actually the heir to the Iron Throne, and not Dany. So they immediately told Tyrion, and then Tyrion went and told Varys. And Varys had decided that Dany was a mad queen and that he would have to kill her. And for a minute, I'm like, maybe people are finally seeing what I've seen in Dany this whole time. That she's emotionally unstable. She has no idea what she's doing. And a rule by her is going to be an unmitigated disaster. But, like, I don't really feel like there's been enough build-up to what happened in this episode. Like, there isn't that much interaction between her and Cersei. I guess Cersei killed Missandei, but that's kind of like a shoot the shaggy dog thing. That's like they just had to try to like give Dany a reason to freak out. Like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like the last two seasons, she's been kind of calmed down a bit. She's been hanging out with Jon, etc. And in this episode, she's just gone crazy. So Tyrion and Varys are talking, and Tyrion's decided to back the queen, and Varys has decided to back Jon. And Varys is writing out a message that he's going to send to someone. And instead of, like, he decides to burn the message for some reason, and Tyrion takes him out to Daenerys, and she executes him. And then she says to Tyrion, you're really fucking stupid. Because you found out about this, and rather than come to me, you immediately went to Varys, and you were plotting behind my back. And I'm like, I actually kind of agree with Dany on this one. Everyone is going behind her back and trying to undermine her and trying to screw with her. Like, she should have killed Tyrion. Like, has Tyrion made a single good decision in the last 3 seasons? He got all of her Westerosi forces killed in a series of worthless battles. None of his diplomacy wound up working out. Like, he basically cost her the war on multiple occasions. Like, I can't think of a single decision he's made for the last 3 seasons that's been of any help. And now he's obviously betrayed his queen. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. She's like, I forgive you, but if you fail me again, you fail me for then you will have failed me for the last time. It's like, we're going to go with that fucking, like, villain cliche. So they're going to attack the Red Keep now. And they're like, we're going to win this. This is going to be the end of the war. And as I said last time, in my mind, Cersei's basically won this. We saw all the Dothraki get wiped out in 2 episodes ago. Most of the Northern soldiers got wiped out. I don't think she has too many Unsullied. We saw most of the Unsullied get killed 2 episodes ago. And she's down to 1 dragon and no ships. So it's like, how is she going to beat Dany? Dany has maybe like 10,000 Lannister bannermen. Or maybe 5 to 10,000 and 20,000 men of the Golden Company. Versus Dany's, I don't even know how many men Dany has left. Not very many. She lost most of her forces and previously. So basically, in the face of this, rather than the good guys coming up with some sort of like plan, or Arya going in like commando style and assassinating Cersei, or something like that, what wound up happening is they just said, okay, we've ridden ourselves into a corner, so we're just gonna have the presumably the good guys win. So what happens, and I shit you not, so the Iron Fleet is arrayed in the harbor. Why they're arrayed in the formation they're in, I don't know, because they're so tightly packed. And there's a lot less of them than when our previous were. I thought Euron had like hundreds of ships, but he only has about like 12. So Dany comes in, and they have all their scorpions loaded, but then they're not loaded when she arrives. I don't know. They must have unloaded them for some reason. So Dany shows up. Euron fires at the dragon once and misses. None of the other ships fire their scorpions. None of them do. They just sit there. They don't try to move. They don't try to shoot arrows. They don't try to shoot scorpions. They just literally sit there, and Dany blows them all up. And it's like, why? Why are they doing this? What kind of fucking final battle is this? It's like you're playing an RTS and you turn off the AI. It's like you're using like cheats in a strategy game. And then we like cut back to the main wall, and the scorpions on towers are not firing at the Unsullied army that's arrayed, even though they're well within range, and the longbowmen refuse to fire too. So Cersei decides that they're going to array the Golden Company outside the front of the city walls. And once again, I'm like, you have this giant city wall. Why are you sending your soldiers outside in front of it? It doesn't make any sense. They don't have any siege weapons. They don't even have ladders. They have no way to get through the gates and climb the wall. Why would you send the majority of your soldiers out to get killed? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So then Dany attacks the walls of King's Landing, and once again, like, they fire, I think one of the ballistas fires once. The rest of the scorpions just stand there. They just stand there and they just let Dany kill them. They don't try to fire. They don't try to run away. They just stand perfectly still, and she goes through and kills all of them. Like, what kind of a final battle is that? Is this really what we've been, like, leading up to? This is our big final battle? The antagonists just stand there and let Dany kill them? Like, there's none of the resolve we saw, none of so Cersei's manipulating and like her master plan, and her actually managing to get into an advantageous position, which to me was kind of like the most interesting part of the last 2 seasons, results in like nothing, and it just her men giving up. And then Dany comes down and she blows up the walls from behind, and she kills all 20,000 men of the Golden Company in one shot, because it shows them all dying. And they've been pretty clear there's 20,000 of them. So Dany's somehow able to kill 20,000 men in a single shot. I'm like, if she was able to kill 20,000 in one shot, and the army of the dead was like 100,000, why didn't she just kill the army of the dead with her? She had 2 dragons. So if each shot from a dragon kills 20,000 people, wouldn't that be like 3 strafing ones, and they would have won the previous battle? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And once again, people be like, Argent, you're taking this too seriously. It's a TV show. Okay, but like, there's no stakes then. If you're gonna build up the last 2 seasons of Cersei like outmaneuvering everybody, and then you have her lose not because of something the good guys did, not because of like some super brilliant strategy, but because they just give up, but there's no reason for them to give up. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, meanwhile, they captured Jaime trying to sneak through the lines, and they have him locked up. And Tyrion goes in and releases him. And he's like, I'm going to let you go. And Jaime's like, but aren't you just betraying your queen yet again? And Tyrion's like, no, it's okay. We're just going to let you go. You can go take Cersei away. She can go into exile and everything is just going to be good. And Jaime's like, thank you. I'm going to go do that. And then we have this shitty emotional scene where Tyrion's like, you're the only one who didn't treat me like a monster. And once again, like, I don't get this whole thing why Dany isn't allowed to take the city by storm. Like, she doesn't have to sack King's Landing. She just has to take it. Like, she doesn't have to... The Unsullied are very disciplined. The Unsullied won't sack the city unless she tells them to sack the city. So, like, I don't get why she can't just attack the city, take it, and then not slaughter the entire civilian population. So, like, they're saying what we need to do is we need to starve them out, because starving the entire population into submission and having hundreds of thousands of people die is for some reason more moral than having a couple thousand people die in friendly fire when you're attacking the city. And the way Dany wins this, because they all just stand there and let themselves get killed, and she kills 20,000 men of the Golden Company in one shot, like, no civilians wound up dying. Oh, also when the Iron Fleet gets blown up, Euron jumps off. And you're like, okay, they're going to do some like lame Hollywood shit where Euron's going to somehow survive and make it to the shore. So they've taken the city. The Lannister bannermen throw down their swords and surrender. Dany's angry though, so she throws a temper tantrum and she just starts blowing King's Landing up. And the Unsullied and Northerners and Dothraki just rape and kill the entire population of King's Landing. Literally, they just start killing everything, and Jon Snow is just incapable of doing anything to deal with this. He's just like, oh no, I guess this isn't good, maybe. So Dany just deliberately slaughters as many civilians as she can. And once again, this is kind of just there's not really build up to this. Like, sure, Dany's been kind of struggling throughout the last couple seasons, but she kind of just goes from being mildly annoyed to being a genocidal maniac in the span of like 2 episodes. It's the build-up had kind of just stopped being a build-up once she reached Jon Snow, and now she just suddenly goes crazy. Like, it doesn't make sense in the context of her character. It doesn't come from, like... Okay, because let's look at like some previous things she did. Like when she killed Dickon and Randall. That made sense because that was from her arrogance and her pride and her belief that everyone should just bow to her and worship her. Dany is in many ways acts like a spoiled child. So that was fine. In this case, she just goes crazy and just starts blowing shit up. Because, oh, my Sandy died. My Sandy died. So all the scorpions get destroyed. For some reason, Cersei didn't put any on the Red Keep or Maegor's Holdfast. They were all on the walls. There's no defenses whatsoever. So then Sandor Clegane and Arya reach the tower, and Sandor's like, I have to go fight my brother. So Cersei's trying to get away, and Sandor comes up, and then Gregor goes and he's like, I'm going to fight my brother. And then Cersei's like, no, I want you to protect me. And then Qyburn's like, obey the queen. So then Gregor just kills Qyburn for no reason. And even though Gregor is like a zombie with no will of his own, he decides he's going to have his epic final battle with his brother. So they start fighting, And the Hound somehow stabs Gregor through a thick breastplate, chainmail, and boiled leather, and it goes all the way through him and out his back. I don't think that's like physically possible. Even maybe if it was Valerian steel, I'd be okay with it because Valerian steel's magic at least. But he literally runs the guy all the way through, and I'm getting tired of this. It's bullshit. So then Gregor tries to like crush his eyes in a way similar to Oberyn. So then Gregor does like a football tackle, and they both fall to their deaths off the wall. Like, what was this whole thing with the Hound's redemption arc? Wasn't he supposed to try to become a better person? What about him fighting for the living? Like, in the Battle of Ice and Fire, he just kind of cowered the whole time in fear. Like, has he done anything vaguely useful in the last, like, 3 seasons? I guess he went on the mission beyond the wall, but his whole redemption arc just didn't pay off. He just died a awful death of revenge, having learned absolutely nothing and not grown at all as a character. Like I said, this feels like they just had this episode filmed like 3 or 4 years ago, and then they just pulled it out of the closet, and like they just ignored everything else that had happened. It just feels so disconnected. So then Jaime reaches Cersei, and they're like, we're going to go into exile again. Oh no, sorry, I forgot. So Jaime is sneaking into the castle, and then Euron just comes out of the ocean like a fucking Bond villain, and he's like, Kingslayer, if you can kill me, then you'll have killed 2 kings and you'll be a legend. So then Euron goes and they have a duel, and Euron stabs him like twice, but Jaime somehow is able to, I don't know, he picks up his sword and he kills Euron. And then he goes away and he's perfectly fine, and he doesn't seem to be injured after that, despite Euron like stabbing him in the chest with like a very long dagger multiple times. So he reaches Cersei, and they make it to the cellars. And Cersei's like, I want our child to live. And then Jaime's like, all that matters is us, you and me here. And then the building collapses on them and they both die. And I'm like, really? That's the build-up? That's the end of Jaime's character arc? We went through like 8 seasons of him being the most developed character on this show. Of him coming to realize how bad Cersei was, of realizing like how his behavior was terrible, of him like finally kind of falling in love with Brienne and seeing her as kind of the opposite of Cersei, because Brienne's ugly on the outside but a very good person on the inside, whereas Cersei's ugly on the inside but beautiful on the outside. And you think Jaime's going to have redemption, and my hope was that Jaime was going to kill Cersei, but they had to put the stupid pregnancy subplot in. So I thought he was going to kill them together or something, but they just die because some random roof falls on them. And you're like, okay, they're like, well, Argent, that's how people normally die during battle. It's from random stuff like shrapnel or like stray shots. I'm like, okay, but if you're going to do that, then don't have the fucking Hound and Gregor have their big fight and then like throw themselves off of the roof of the castle. Like, don't have Euron somehow survive and come out like a Bond villain to have like the duel between Cersei's lovers. So meanwhile, Jon is just walking around being completely ineffectual as everybody is just looting and raping the city. And Dany just keeps firing. And remember those caches of wildfire all over the city? She ignites those, and those start to explode as well. And she starts killing her own troops in the orgy of destruction. So Arya gets killed multiple times, like a building falls on her, she gets burned alive by a dragon, but in the next scene she's like okay with minor scratches. Like, it literally shows her being burned by the dragon, but the fire doesn't hurt her for some reason. And then there's like this like 2-minute long scene where she finds like this horse, and she's like, I can contact with you, horse. Together, you and I, we can stop this madness. So then she rides off on the horse, and that's the end of the episode. So, like, let's have a death recap. Who all died? Jaime and Cersei died. Nothing about their deaths was ironic. Nothing about it completed their character arc. Nothing about it dealt with the themes of the show. It was just like random. And I guess that was kind of like supposed to be the final inversion. But there's a difference between inverting expectations and having it like make sense, but it being something you didn't really see coming, versus just doing something as a fuck you to the audience. What this kind of reminds me of is, okay, so End to Evangelion, I think, is probably the best comparison. So in End to Evangelion, Ono made the movie as largely a fuck you to fans of Eva who didn't like the original ending. So what he did was he put in all the stuff people had asked for, but he did it in like a really bad way. Like he had Shinji jacking off over Asuka's body. He had Asuka kick ass, but then get brutally like just destroyed. And all that was put in there as like a fuck you. I'm going to give you what you want, but it was fan disservice. It wasn't made to like help the fans or make them happy or make them like the ending. It was made as just a way to like express their contempt for them. And this is what that episode felt like. It was just the creators of the show D&D saying how much they hate their audience, how dumb you were to watch the last 8 seasons. And I think it just shows once and for all what fucking hacks they are. And the books aren't going to end this way. George R. R. Martin is a lot of things, but he's not this bad a writer. And I think he understands the themes of the show better than anyone else does. So, yeah, it's a fucking mess. I don't know what's going to happen next episode. Someone's got to kill Danny. Someone has to kill Tyrion, too, because that guy has no idea what the fuck he's doing. So, there's so many loose ends they have to wrap up, even with the mass character death. And I guess we'll see what happens in the last episode. So this was an unmitigated disaster. It was complete and total garbage. It sucked. That's the